Caught on camera. That is exactly what Donald Trump was, in another example of the criminal cover-up that we are seeing out of this administration. Donald Trump was caught on camera in a secret Epstein meeting. We are going to get into it all, and what it means for the panic that we are seeing out of Donald Trump's White House, which is also in civil war at the same time as they are engaging, and the worst run and biggest cover-up in presidential history. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, it's not just secret meetings that we see out of Donald Trump's White House. It is very public cover UPS. And those need to be met with public pushback. And that is exactly what Robert Garcia is delivering with the latest call-out that he gave to Donald Trump. A bombshell on this White House already in shambles. I want to take a look at it right before we get into the secret meeting caught on camera.
I mean, it's first of all just outrageous that Maria Farmer made these, of course, went to the FBI, went to the authorities, made all of these pleas for help, put an actual case in front of the FBI of the abuse of Jeffrey Epstein, really for the first time, and the courage that that took. And the FBI then did nothing. Now, this, of course, was now in the late 90s. It was 10 years later that the FBI began looking into Jeffrey Epstein's sex crimes and all the horrible things he did to so many additional women and girls. Had the FBI acted on Ms. Farmer's courage, on her going in and actually sharing her story, we'd be at a different place today with so much trauma inflicted that could have been, of course, we now know, prevented. And so we're demanding that the Inspector General of the DOJ investigate the FBI so that we understand what exactly happened. Every single survivor deserves justice. Ms. Farmer deserves justice, and so that's what this accountability and this report is about. And in the past, this Inspector General has refused, by the way, to address requests from survivors. And now we're saying this is a different moment. He needs to answer to Congress, and we're going to hold the Inspector General accountable to this investigation.
What is your assessment of the progress of the release of the Epstein files so far?
I mean, what a complete both disaster. This is a complete bungling of this whole process by the DOJ. And one, it's illegal. It all should have been out already. We were very clear. The law is clear. It should all be on the date that was now been passed multiple days, and it should have been accessible and searchable by the American public. That has not happened. And now what do we get? We're getting an enormous amount of sloppiness. We're getting files that are being overly redacted. We're getting other files where survivors' names are actually mentioned. And yet, who's not being, of course, redacted? We have to look at all the files in front of us and see who is being protected. There's also, in this case, very seriously, as we know, names of co-conspirators that are possibly being protected and hidden by Pam Bondi and by the FBI and the DOJ. That is incredibly concerning. And so we're going to expose survivors, but protect co-conspirators and pedophiles.
Robert Garcia has been one of the bravest Democrats we have had in standing up to Donald Trump. And I think why it is so important to talk about this example of complete neglect is that I think that we have maybe sometimes lost sight of just how big this cover-up is. Of course, every action that Donald Trump takes is intended to serve himself. That's what he's focused on when he's defending the other criminals in this cabal of pedos that was working alongside Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to hide their abuse of young girls. When Donald Trump is covering up for other people, it's because he doesn't want any more links to himself. But in doing so, Donald Trump is creating more harm. He is putting more people in danger. Of course, he is denying justice to these victims, but he's allowing these serial abusers to go free. But Donald Trump doesn't care about that. He also wants to make sure that, as we see, millions more Epstein documents are set to come out, that no other information is other than what they can control is able to be told in the story of Epstein. Donald Trump knows that if more associates are unmasked, those are more people who can share insight into Donald Trump's crimes. That is what he is ultimately most terrified of. That is why Donald Trump, no matter how much he pretends that this is an issue that no one should care about, and we all just need to move on, as he said the other day. Yeah, behind the scenes, it's very obvious how panicked this White House is. And it was captured on the day that the Epstein vote was to happen in the House of Representatives on camera. A secret Epstein meeting that Donald Trump tried to arrange in his pressure campaign. And it is exposing just how panicked these people have been the whole time. Vanity Fair photographer reveals Epstein files panic derailed. Photo shoot, the photographer, responsible for last week's infamous Vanity Fair West Wing profile, has revealed that his photo shoot was upended by a scramble to pressure Lauren Boebert not to vote against the government over the Epstein files. The explosive report on Donald Trump's inner circle, and, most notably, candid quotes from the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, set off days of outrage and fevered online and media analysis. Christopher Anderson, 55, the man tasked with taking the unsparring close-up portraits of Trump's closest staff, told the magazine on Tuesday that his tightly choreographed day inside Trump's second-term White House blew up halfway through when it was suddenly announced the cabinet had been called to the Situation Room. He and the Vanity Fair team assumed it meant war, he said, but the reality was much more bizarre. We later found out that day it was Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who had been called into the Situation Room to put pressure on her about not pushing to release the Epstein files. Anderson told the outlet, the anecdote confirms a pressure campaign revealed in November when Trump, 79, personally leaned on a tiny band of Republican rebels who were backing a discharge petition to force a House vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Not only were Donald Trump's stooges, Stephen Miller, Susie Wiles, Carolyn Levitt, J.D. Vance, caught in the ugliest versions of themselves, which are the real versions of themselves in that Vanity Fair article, that sprawling piece detailing just how much this White House is crumbling right now, but they were also caught and exposed in their blatant cover-up, the pressure campaign that they tried and failed to run. And that has been the story of this cover-up in the White House. Trying and failing, Donald Trump thinks that he can distract his way out of this that has failed. He thought he could pressure Republicans out of this that has failed. And now he thinks that he can just deny the existence of this story as a whole, and that will move on if the DOJ continues to push what they view as some artificial deadline, which is in fact the law they are currently breaking to release these full files. But it's just not going to work. And that continues to prove out to be the case. And Ari Melber broke down how it is even more so every day in this clip right here.
In these files to a serial sex abuser, Larry Nassar. I want to tell you tonight, Trump's DOJ says that while the letter was in the files, right, the letters and emails in these files are not obviously automatically true. And we've had more disclosure than usual in this case. And one of the things we've mentioned, our guests have mentioned, is sometimes people think when something is overexposed, that means guilt by association. That's not always the case. Now, some of this was reported by 2023 by the AP, but not in the same detail. This is postmarked 3 days after Epstein's death, August 2019 there. MS Now hasn't confirmed the authenticity. So what I'm telling you is this is in the files. You may hear about it, but that doesn't mean that it's a true thing. Just as we've had past emails from Epstein and others making accusations about Trump. That is not itself criminal evidence of wrongdoing. It tells you about what's in some of these files. It might tell you about threats or blackmail that aren't based on the truth. And I want you to know the statement here, they've confirmed the alleged letter from Epstein to Nassar is, quote, fake, is what DOJ is saying tonight. Again, this is how transparency is supposed to work. Let the people see and add context. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against Trump, they go on to say, discussing that as unfounded and false. Now, Trump's DOJ can, of course, add that context. What has been requested and now mandated under law is more information, not less. More documents, not hiding documents. And then you can add context. Now, the DOJ's handling of this release is peculiar. Those files posted yesterday were available for hours. Then they were removed at 8 p.m. Then they were reposted around midnight, which gives you an idea of what it's like to work at Trump's DOJ in this Christmas week. The files also reveal an email from an investigator who said they had a photo of Trump with Maxwell while searching Bannon's phone. Again, that's interesting to say the least. Investigator included the photo, but that was redacted. There was an uproar over the photos removed from the DOJ's website, which were also then restored. If you see from the headlines and the point here, this has been a bungled operation and at times an illegal cover-up. That's just the facts tonight. Now, one of the photos was inside Epstein's home and it had that Trump image as part of a personal collection. You see it there. Of all the things that have come out in this Epstein story, what you see the arrow pointing at is not exactly the worst thing for Donald Trump in terms of public embarrassment, and yet they took it down and then put it back up. Survivors have been speaking out.
I am no longer supporting this administration. I am so disgusted with this administration. I think that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel both need to resign, and I would love to see number 47 get impeached over this.
We went from, very happy, very excited, where we've reached somewhere to now being very disappointed. It's come to the point where we can't even trust our government.
Those are the voices of survivors. They can't trust their government even after they led an actual movement, I don't know what else you would call it, of survivors and their allies and others interested in truth in the story, as well as a bipartisan coalition in Congress. And that movement went from, hey, you're never going to see anything and get a vote, to forcing a vote, to forcing the president to sign that law because they already had a veto-proof majority. The voices of the survivors you hear have achieved a lot this year as we end in this odd Christmas week, this Epstein document dump week. They've achieved a lot. But you can see their work's not done. They're still pressing because what we're witnessing in real time, as we've been reporting since Friday night, is an illegal cover-up in plain sight, a bungled cover-up, problems with posting, taking down, reposting, redactions, putting up slices of material and then adding real-time tweets about it as if they haven't had all this time to prepare. And so what you see there is a DOJ and more widely a Trump administration under pressure. It doesn't look organized because it's not. It doesn't look honest because, as we've reported on the evidence, in many times and cases, it has not been honest.
They cannot possibly think they are getting away with this because they're not. They're trying, and they are certainly failing. And in fact, in my opinion, they've only brought more attention to the fact that they're engaged in this cover-up by covering up. If Donald Trump's goal was to get us to talk about the Epstein files more than keep deleting them, keep trying to hide, keep sending Pam Bondi out to lie to us, because all it does is make it that much clear that we need transparency and we need accountability, and that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and everyone in the DOJ and the FBI who are covering up are criminals. And we are going to be talking about that on this show every single day, even when it's a Christmas Eve. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.